What's going on, everybody? Hopefully the sound's working. I'm just gonna double check because that's how we roll. So far, so good. Man, I tell you, I've had a productive morning thus far. Packed all the blueberry cobbler coffee, and it's already packed and ready for me to drop it off at the post office. It's been an interesting morning, interesting couple of days when it comes to the news because you you may have seen what was on Tucker Carlson last night. He apparently released some of the videos, and I didn't watch his episode. I was already sleeping. I fell asleep early as heck yesterday. But you may have seen he released some of the video that his staff apparently went through. Remember, Kevin McCarthy released a bunch of video that Tucker Carlson and his crew were going to be allowed to go through, which was great, right? You know, transparency and all that, except they didn't really release anything that surprising. They released things that we already knew existed. Like one of the most damning videos, I think, not that it changes anything one bit, but one of the most damning videos that was released was the video of, I forgot what the Viking guy, that of him being led into by police, him being led into the Capitol, into the rotunda. And they were even opening the doors for him. So that's what's kind of interesting to me, because he's since come out, but I believe he pled guilty, so nothing's going to change of that anyway. But it does put a little bit of like, hey, we told you already. I mean, we've listened. The January 6th stuff is so old to me to be listening to the entire time. Any mention of January 6th, as someone that had camera crews down there, it was a riot. Let's make no mistake. And I don't want to give apologies for the people that were inside the Capitol that went through broken windows or anything like that, because I don't think I should apologize for them. I think they committed crimes. You know what I mean? But there's a big group of people that have been charged for either entering the Capitol through the doors when they walk by, and there's all the Capitol Police and Metro PD officers that are like, you don't have to agree with it, but you must respect it. Remember? Like, everyone's seen those videos, but I don't want anyone to get confused by what I'm saying and think that I'm just saying, oh, well, they're all innocent. No, that's not what I believe at all. That's not what I believe. Someone said you need to go find it and watch it, Steve. He's releasing part 2 tonight. I think there'll be more to follow. There's no reason for me to watch it. I already know it was a riot that day. Nothing's going to change it. Was it an insurrection? No. Was it a riot? Yes. There's nothing different than what I saw that day versus any other day in Portland, Oregon, or any other day in Denver, Colorado, or any other day in New York City, or any other day in Seattle, Washington, or any other day in Atlanta, Georgia, or you know what I mean? It's the same thing. Anyone that wants to try to make the argument and say it's not the same thing, you're garbage. And I mean that, because I'm so tired of people trying to act like everybody that went in that day was, everyone that climbed through a broken window, everybody that assaulted a police officer was acting as their patriotic duty. It's because that's simply not what happened. You know what I mean? It's simply not what happened. And I know a lot of people disagree with me on that. I know a lot of people believe, oh, it's patriotic. Man, it's not patriotic. They walked in the Capitol and smeared crap on the walls. I pay tax dollars. And all of you guys pay tax dollars. Cat King said, wow, you're really wrong on this and you're garbage. Well, thank you for watching. I kind of like it now when people are calling me garbage for stating an opinion. Does anyone think it was patriotic for people to smash out windows of the Capitol and go through? Does anyone think it was patriotic to punch officers? Does anyone think it was patriotic for the officers to punch the protesters? Because we saw that too. Does anyone, and again, we're not talking about the people that were released or that were allowed to enter the Capitol through the doors and escorted by officers. We're not talking about them. But does anyone think it's patriotic to go through broken windows and go in there? Does anyone think it's patriotic to break into offices and put their feet up on the desks? Does anyone think it's patriotic to do any of those things? Because if you do, then you are the problem with society. I don't think it's patriotic. Do I think it was an insurrection? No. Do I think they were attempting to overthrow the government? Absolutely not. And I think the only reason why the media is allowed to distinguish what happened on January 6th as something different than what happened, for example, 2 days ago in Atlanta, Georgia, is because of the people that do it align themselves with the patriotic movement. And that's the truth. If all the people that stormed the Capitol, if all those people that did it were wearing Black Lives Matter shirts or something like that, it would have been different by the media. And it would have been consumed differently by every single person that's watching this and disagreeing with what I'm saying now. If those people were not carrying American flags, but they were carrying Black Lives Matter flags, a lot of the people that say, oh, they're patriotic, would be up in arms and saying, listen, that was an attack on our democracy. And you guys know it just as well as I do. You know it just as well as I do. For all the people that are like, oh, Donald Trump benefited from the riot at January 6th, that's the same thing I would say to that I've said before. No, he didn't. There's no way he literally benefited. Because, in fact, it stopped what he was trying to have happen. It stopped the counting of, or the objecting of the electorate. Adiz 411 said Portland was trying to burn the federal courthouse to the ground. Yeah, for like 170 days. And that's my major argument is that, listen, if you're going to condemn it on one side, you can't just say, well, it's acceptable because I agree politically with the group that's doing it now. You can't do that. And for so long, people have been doing that as well. Like, you can understand the leftist mindset with this whole thing. You can understand why they're calling it an insurrection. You can understand that because they approved of all the riots in 2020. They would not condemn it. They called them peaceful while cars are burning behind them. We all saw that. So for people on the left to assume that January 6th was far worse than everything else, you have to understand why. It's because they've been programmed. They literally said that the riots in Portland were not anything. We heard Mayor Ted Wheeler, as he's sitting there watching fireworks and improvised explosive device be launched at federal officers in front of the courthouse, and then the federal officers used tear gas and pepper balls. We heard him turn towards the cameras after watching and witnessing everything that was transpiring there for hours. We watched him turn to the cameras and say he honestly saw nothing from the protesters that justified the response from the federal agents. It was if that isn't the clearest example of just how crazy some people are. And so you have to understand that is exactly why so many people on the left truly believe in their hearts that what happened on January 6th was the worst thing in the world. It's not that hard to understand why they believe it is the worst thing in the world, because that is how they've been conditioned to believe. That is what they're conditioned to believe, that it was in fact the worst thing in the world. And so it sucks. But that's why, like, I personally now have a disconnect. I have a disconnect between everything else. Someone said, so you can understand why they used a deceased police officer to smear Americans, even though he died of a stroke days later. Listen, I'm not going to try to rationalize why some people did certain things. I'm not going to try to rationalize why the left is completely nutty. I'm not going to try to rationalize why the right is completely nutty sometimes. I can't. I don't know. Well, yeah, I do know why they lied and said that Officer Sitnik was bludgeoned to death with a fire extinguisher. I understand that, but I also have respect for law enforcement. I have respect for Officer Sitnik, and I'm certainly not going to drag him through the dirt like everyone else is trying to do. His family put out a statement after Tucker Carlson's thing last night. I'll be honest, I didn't read it. I just knew what it was already going to say by saying it. I'm not going to go and jump on this bandwagon and call Officer Sitnik a bad guy, because I don't know, and I don't believe he is. I don't believe any of those officers, excluding the one Metro PD officer that sucker punched the old man and started the entire thing. We watched it live. And that's the difference between a lot of other people, because I didn't get my knowledge of what happened on January 6th from the January 6th committees, from watching other videos after the fact. We watched it live. I saw it live. We cut away from President Donald Trump's speech deliberately, even though I didn't want to. I was getting messages from people that were on the ground, our camera crews, saying you have to cut to our feed. And I didn't want to. I didn't want to show the riots. I didn't want to show the beatings. I didn't want to show any of that stuff that I knew was going on. I had it on another screen. I wanted to show President Trump at least try to make some sort of explanation on what they were doing that day. And then, of course, all of his statements get, the same thing mainstream media does all the time. They take what he says and then they cut it all up, edit it up, chop it up to make it seem like it is one thing, like the Josh Hawley thing. Remember, the media played it during the January 6th hearing that Josh Hawley, he gave his fist to the January 6ers prior to it all happening, and then he was running. He was the first one out of there. And then you see the video today as if it's a big thing that he wasn't the only congressperson that was running virtually every single one, and he was one of the last ones out, as if that makes some sort of big difference. And that was my problem with the January 6th tapes being released to Tucker Carlson and not to the general public, is they get to frame whatever narrative they want. They get to, because why is it important? If any of us were inside the Capitol, right? Let's just forget the fact that they were patriotic. Forget all that. If you knew that the Capitol was coming under attack by a mob, okay, let's just say that. If the Capitol was coming, you're telling me you wouldn't run out of there? I am a hard-headed person that loves to throw fists. I would be running out of there. You know what I mean? So for him to show that video, and I understand why they did it. They were saying, hey, look, the video that you saw in the January 6th committee was a complete and utter edit of what actually happened. Here's what actually happened. Now, if the whole purpose of giving Tucker Carlson access to these videos is to just counter the narrative that has been put forth by the January 6th committee, so be it. I'm not going to participate in that. I want to know what actually happened on January 6th. That's what I want to know. I want to know why the Capitol Police were allowed to stand back as protesters were going in. I want to know why the Metro PD officers weren't there, stayed. Why didn't they have a huge law enforcement presence already? That's what the January 6th committee meeting should have been, the January 6th hearing. That's what it should have been. But we're not getting any of that. And my fear is that anything that is being released by the January or by Tucker Carlson or by any Republican committee that's going to investigate January 6th is not actually going to be the truth. We already heard the left's version of the truth, right? But now we're going to hear the right's version of the truth. And then it's just like mainstream media. You're left trying to say, okay, which one do I believe more? And that's not what it's supposed to be. God Writes a Harley said, Steve, you're letting instant gratification get to you. How? What kind of instant gratification is anybody getting from January 6th? None. I'm not getting instant gratification from any of this thing. I wish, in all reality, we would stop talking about January 6th and talk about the issues currently facing. The fact that 415 black people were killed in Philadelphia last year alone out of 520. Okay, that's a huge, huge, much bigger issue than January 6th. The fact that black people walking around in the United States have a 1 in 5 chance of getting shot. That's a much bigger issue. Right? And it's not, and the reason why I say black people is because no one else does it. Keep in mind the story about all these, the story about the kidnapping in Mexico, that's going to disappear within the next day or two. I guarantee you, you mark my words, that story of the people that were kidnapped by the Mexican cartels or whatever, that's going to disappear because they just released the names of the people that were kidnapped. And we have much bigger issues to worry about than what happened on January 6th. We really do. And I know a lot of people see, Kelly, this is a problem. Look at this comment. Kelly said, what Tucker showed is pretty damning to the left. I would argue with you that what Tucker showed is pretty damning to America. It shouldn't be damning to the left. And if that's what it is to everybody else, then I don't know where to go. If the goal is to one up the other party, we are not doing things the right way. If the goal is to be, provide context that's damning to the left, what about context that actually gives an explanation of what happened on January 6th? Because what you're seeing in the video that I at least saw yesterday, every single segment of the video was meant to be to put out to counter a narrative instead of to give any firm understanding what actually happened that day. I don't care about exposing the left. That's not why I do the show. It's not why any of you guys should care about those tapes. I want to know what the people were doing in the White House that allowed these, or in Congress that allowed all these people in. I want to know who opened the magnetic doors. I want to know that kind of stuff. That's what I want to be able to find out. Godright said, you misunderstand, Steve. I'm saying we cannot get instant gratification from a 1 hour Tucker Carlson show. Give them time. I don't, again, until they actually do the thing that, or until they provide the context of which I just stated, it doesn't matter to me. What Tucker Carlson is showing, what CNN is showing, it's all the same. It's all political partisan crap. And we're not actually getting to the bottom of what happened. And we're going to have that same mentality. It's going to keep happening. You know what I mean? Sandy said, we know what happened. We watched it happen. I don't know what happened on January 6th. I don't know why Capitol Police weren't allowed to repel this group. I don't know why National Guard members weren't called up in addition to it when the Capitol Police chief required it or requested it 7 times. I don't know why they had all these advanced, threat bulletins that were issued out in the weeks prior to this thing that they didn't take seriously. I don't know why. And of course, the January 6th hearing, which was supposed to be about getting to the bottom of what happened that day and the lead up to allow that day to happen, you didn't hear any of that. The only thing was Donald Trump is bad, Orange Man bad. Oh, he was trying to overturn elections, all that same crap. I don't care. I don't care about any of that. I don't care about seeing these videotapes unless you're going to have some sort of understanding of what actually went. To sit there and go through the videotapes and to try to disprove talking points of the left is pointless. It's absolutely pointless to me. You know what I mean? Because I don't want to see that. What I want to do is find out what actually transpired that day and allow it never to happen again. Nobody could say it was the deadliest day on the Capitol because just 2 or 3 months after that, 2 Capitol Police officers were viciously attacked, one killed by a black nationalist. And right in front of the Capitol. He got out with a knife. He hit him first with the car. One was severely injured. The other one was killed. They don't talk about those kind of things because they want to say that is an attack on our democracy and nothing else is. How is attacking a federal courthouse in Portland that's occupied? How is that not, an attack on our democracy? How about attacking INS buildings, attempting to set them on fire in Portland and Denver? How come those aren't considered an attack on our democracies? You all know they are. Sue said, I know an officer pushed or punched an old man that set off the conflict. Yeah. I mean, I telegraphed it to be honest, that didn't set off the conflict. It set off the conflict at the actual Capitol grounds, but the people that were wearing armored clothing, they all pushed past the initial officers at that first barricade. When that happened, all hell broke loose. And at that point, and why weren't there more officers? Like, those are the type of questions that I would want answered. How come there weren't more officers right at the front? Because that would make the most sense, right? You have a lot of officers, especially if you see a group of 50 people that are walking up that look like they're, ready to brawl with you. You know what I mean? And the fact that they didn't release the video to the public is all the video to the public is something that I find concerning, because again, you can't hope that Fox News suddenly is going to be apolitical. You just simply cannot. And I know a lot of people want them to be, but you can't, because they're not. What they do is they've got a Republican lean, and all we're doing now is trying to counter the narrative from the left. And that's the truth. Someone said, you mean Ray Epps told people to push? Again, I didn't need to see Tucker Carlson's video to see that, because we already knew that. They did this big damning thing. Ray Epps didn't leave when the January 6th committee said he did. When we were reviewing his video, it shows that he was still up there. Yes, of course he was. Everybody already had those videos from the crowd. We already knew he was up there. That's why everyone was saying, listen, if you're arresting all these people for parading on Capitol grounds without going inside, why aren't you arresting Ray Epps? Because he was clearly parading on Capitol grounds. He didn't enter the Capitol he didn't enter the actual physical Capitol, but he was clearly on Capitol grounds. They didn't arrest him for whatever reason. You could say he's not a Fed or whatever. My personal belief is he is. But that's my thing. So that's why, like, when I watch the Tucker Carlson stuff, the brief bit that I watched, I was just like, this is stupid. It's exactly what I knew was going to happen, because they're going to push out a certain amount of conversation. They're only going to talk about what they want to talk about and nothing else. And that's the truth. Someone said Tucker is just the first to get it. There's no intention of Kevin McCarthy or anybody to release that. In fact, I think other journalists are going to sue Kevin McCarthy because he has no intention of releasing it to the general media. He has no intention whatsoever. You know, Byron made a comment that is probably right. He said releasing to the public won't matter anymore. It's too late. I also almost agree with you in that regard, because releasing it to the public isn't going to do a lot now. Not because, again, what is going to change? You know, I'm not a big fan of the people that went into the Capitol, the people that broke through windows and smashed windows. I'm not going to be. I spent 2 years condemning the BLM riots and chaos that called from that. I'm certainly not going to just look beyond the American flags and say, oh, what they were doing is justified. No, it wasn't. It wasn't at all. Has John Sullivan been tried yet? No, he's still out. I don't know. I haven't checked on him in a while, so I don't know what the latest update is for John Sullivan. And John Sullivan is someone that we tracked for a long time. We wrote several articles about John Sullivan prior to January 6th. Why? Because I knew he was a terrorist. And we uncovered that he was a terrorist, and we documented that he was a terrorist, and it didn't even matter. And now that dude's out on no bail, charged with like 7 federal felonies, unless some have been reduced. It's crazy. It's crazy. And he's not a conservative by any means. He's not a conservative. He's the one that was up in September of 2020, up on the concrete barriers outside of the White House, saying that we got to burn it down. We got to pull him out. We can't wait till the election. It's crazy. Walls Ball said, dissolve the country, start over. That's a stupid statement too. It's a stupid statement. What people have to do is get beyond and get over the mindset that we're all fighting with each other. And guys, we can do it. We have to pretend like, or not even pretend. We have to just actually work together with people. We have to communicate with people. We have to listen to people. We have to try to understand the positions of people, not saying agree with, but we have to do that on both sides. The left has to do that to the right, and the right has to do that to the left. And we all have to remember that the one goal that we should all aspire to achieve is that this country can be the place that we imagine. And we just got to be able to work to get there. I know it's crazy to think that way, but yeah, I firmly believe. I'm married to a liberal. We are raising 2 great kids. We have personally, we have incredible differences on how to raise our incredibly different ideas and concepts on how to raise our kids. But because we work together, because we listen to each other, we are raising 2 amazing children. You know what I mean? And I think that we can raise an amazing country if we stop fighting with each other over petty stuff. We stop attacking us. We stop saying, oh, this is a major win over the liberals, or this is a major win over the conservatives. No, because it's not. Every time you think you have a win on the other party, realize that in totality, that's a loss. When you say, oh, we have a win as conservatives against this, or this is the first notch at taking the liberals down. No. It's not. It's the first notch at taking us down and putting us further and further away from where we need to be, which is not anything that we're going to achieve in our life. It's for our kids and their kids and their kids. Pamela said it's not going to happen. Yeah, I mean, and a lot of people will have that attitude. Maybe it's because I'm optimistic or being optimistic about it. And it's funny because when I say these things, people say, oh, Steve, you're a liberal now. You're turning into a liberal, because they can't understand that someone is allowed to have a difference of opinion. Someone is allowed to believe that some things can change, that we are better than the people that are sitting there just asking for nothing to ever change. We can change it. We can get through it. I'm not going to stop talking about it just because, it offends people. For a while I was like, you know what? F this. I hate talking about this stuff. I hate talking about it. I'm not going to stop doing this. I'm not going to stop talking about this kind of stuff, because it is stuff that needs to be addressed. And it's not right or left. And people need to stop doing it. You see all these big conservative pundits, that's all they're doing. They're pushing the same, right-wing propaganda. Half of our political candidates thus far are doing the same thing, doing all the talking points, trying to get the right enraged. So you vote for them out of anger. You don't vote for them because they're best for the country. You vote for them because they've weaponized your life. They've weaponized every single thing you do. And that's the truth. Vivi, the very berry picker on YouTube, said, what does your wife say about these videos? Does she know they've been released? No, she doesn't really talk about politics. She has the same view as I do about January 6th. She has the same view. It was a disgusting day. It was a riot. No one is going to change my mind. It wasn't patriotic. And here's the thing. The first punch that was thrown, the first thing of tear gas, the first amount of rubber bullets, it no longer became a peaceful protest. It wasn't. And so anybody, and guys, every single one of you knows about what I'm going to say, and it's true. When we would watch the BLM riots, right? When we would watch the protests while they're marching down the street, blocking the roadways, and we would be like, this is wrong. They should be able to do it. And when the first punch was being thrown, right? And we'd say, this is wrong. And when the first AMRAP or whatever the hell that was, the loud machine, would come out and yell like you are being disorderly, this is close to being declared a riot, we would all say it's time to go home. And then when they would declare it a riot, anyone that's left there at that point is considered a rioter. They have not heeded all the warnings to go home. On January 6th, we covered it live. There were plenty of warnings for people to go home, and many people did. The bad part about it is because of the actions of a few. And when I say a few, yeah, they've arrested 900 plus people. That's a few, considering there were like 200,000 people there. But the fact of the matter is, those 900 people set the Conservative Party and back a long time. And that's why so many people, just so everyone has an understanding, the reason why so many people are, believe that it was a leftist op and all that stuff, because it's hard for people to understand. Personally, for me, it's hard for me to understand why someone that calls themselves a patriot or calls themselves patriotic would smash the window to get into a Capitol. It's much easier to or punch an officer or to assault camera crews or to vandalize property. It's much easier for me to believe that person was, inputted there, that person was an infiltrator. It's so much easier for me to believe that someone would be working to counter what we actually knows that happened that day. What we know would happen that day. You know what I mean? No, he asked a question. I brought up my wife that my wife is liberal. He brought up and he asked a question, what she think about these videos. She believes the same thing. He didn't step out of line by saying that. He didn't say he didn't say anything different. My wife believes the same thing. She believes it was a riot. She wasn't a big fan of the BLM protests or all that. She believed what I believe, that someone can go out and protest whatever they want. I believe that. Even if what they're protesting is complete bullshit, even if I fundamentally disagree with what they're protesting, I still believe they have the right to go out and protest that. Someone said January 6th, disgusting. Look up insurrection definition. Educate yourself. I've watched mostly you from one. Mostly peaceful riots were insurrectionists. Educate yourself. What are you talking about? January 6th was disgusting. The fact that people, because I'm lumping the whole day. Are you saying that every single day that people marched in Portland, riots happened, and that the people that would march during the day are the same people that would attack the buildings at night? All of them? You're holding them all to the same account? Are you holding everyone to account that marched and holding Black Lives Matter signs? Are you holding them all in the same regard as the people that burned down Minneapolis's Precinct 3? Because my guess is that you're not. My guess is that you're not assuming that they're all the same. And which would be the same exact thing that I'm saying about January 6th. Does that make sense? Peaceful protests are American. January 6th wasn't peaceful. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, but that's the blunt of it. Lawrence said, see, this is stupid. And this is what people do. Like Lawrence, it shows that your intelligence is fucking real low. Excuse my language. But he said, Steve will always be a bootlicker, even if their boot is on the head and concrete, blah, blah, blah. I lost tremendous trust in law enforcement and will abide by encountered, but as far as trust, hard pass. Okay, that's fine. There's how have I said anything that even remotely goes with your comment? I talked about the officer that punched him first, right? We saw that. I haven't said anything that even goes and follows your comment. And in fact, I've called out more police officers in the past 2 months of shows than I've applauded good police officers for good work. You know that. If you actually watch a show, unless you just want to come in here and try to do insults. This isn't a place where you're just going to do that, because again, it's about discourse. It's about having conversation. If you want to have conversation. Just don't make up shit, because it doesn't do anything. It's not helping anybody, and you're not actually contributing to a conversation. You could say you don't have a trust in police because you've been personally wronged by police. I don't know. I haven't been personally wronged by police, so I can't assume that police. I go under the assumption that police officers are good. And that's my belief. I have friends that are police officers. They're good people. My interactions with law enforcement has been good. So yes, police officers get the benefit of the doubt from me, and they will until they don't. Do you know what I mean? And you can say that's someone that's a bootlicker. No, it's someone that is. It's like me going and saying pharmacist. Like, if I had one pharmacist that was an asshole, would I say that every pharmacist is an a-hole? No. I would say that one pharmacist is. Someone said, tell that to the prisoners. Again, here's the difference between me and a lot of other people about the what's going on with the January 6ers. I believe that their constitutional rights are all being infringed upon because of due process, because of the selective nature of the documents that are being provided by the government. Those are the reasons. Do I believe they should be out of jail for due process? Yes. But to me, they committed a crime. Do you know what I mean? People that broke into the Capitol, people that were illegally there, people that smashed, people that assaulted officers, they all committed a crime. It's not going to change because of anything. That mindset to me is not going to change. Do I believe their due process is being infringed upon? 100%. They should be afforded bail. They should have the right to defend themselves. They should have access to all the evidence that's being put forth against them, which they're not. And that's what I believe. But I don't go and advocate for criminals. I've never done that. I don't go and advocate and say, oh, we need to let them out. They're heroes. They're certainly not heroes. They're certainly not heroes. Vivi the Berry Picker said, on his question, did the lawyers of the January 6th prisoners have access to these videos? No, they did not. And in fact, they're suing, and judges are ruling against the defense teams having access to these videos. So again, that is a due process infringement in my belief. They're not being allowed to see all the evidence that's being presented against them, citing classified material. So the states are presenting evidence, and then when the defense tries to get that said evidence, they're not allowed to review it because it contains classified material. It contains specific information about certain areas within the Capitol. Lee Czar said, you break the law and get caught, you do the time. Due process needs to be upheld, but they still did the crime. I agree. Yeah. Cat King said, no, they absolutely all did commit a crime. I would like you to find me one person that's currently in jail right now that is not accused of a crime. Because you can't. In regards to the January 6th thing, you're not going to be able to find anybody that's currently accused of trial that's been remanded to jail that literally there's no evidence saying that they committed the crime. You're not going to be able to find that at all. And it's my opinion that everybody that entered that building through a broken, everyone who entered through a broken window committed a crime. Every single person. That's my belief. The QAnon shaman, he's not pending trial. He took a plea bargain, I believe. And by the evidence that was presented out here, I don't know how he got into the Capitol, but I know that he was led to the chamber where he was made the figurehead of the whole thing. I know he was led there by Capitol police officers. That is something that should be reviewed, but he pled guilty. You know? Florida trucker said, how did they get a fair trial? You're never going to in D.C. That's a problem. You know? That's the problem. As soon as they pass the gates, they all. And here's the thing: we were live streaming that day. We heard them declaring it a riot. We heard them announcing that over the loudspeakers while we watched them shoot, rubber bullets down on the crowd below that had nowhere to go. We watched them. We heard them. I heard them. Everybody heard them that watched. So at that point, if you're trying to go into the Capitol, whether it's through open doors or not, you're doing something wrong. John Sullivan has been charged with crimes, 7 charges. He keeps getting new ones because he's lying to everybody. They said he asked to go in and the officer said as long as they're peaceful. Yeah. Ryan said you also watched it live and later found out what you're watching was a huge delay. Yeah, but that's not on my channel. We were actually watching it live. Mainstream media was delaying it because they were worried about what they were going to cover. And anyone that watches it watched it with me. You know how I felt because I got so disgusted. I literally had to end my live feed. I could not watch this anymore because I was tired of people saying they were patriots. It's not patriotic to attack the Capitol. It's not patriotic to smash through broken windows and go inside. It's not patriotic to have your feet up on the desks of congressmen and congresswomen's offices. It's not patriotic to smear crap on the walls of the Capitol. It's not patriotic to fight with police officers, whether you're doing it for self-defense or not. It's not patriotic in any regards to do any of that stuff. And nobody's going to change that opinion for me because that's my belief. But the problem is nobody actually can. I think a lot of people can't think rationally about it that way. You know what I mean? Cat King said some were let in through the doors and gave tours. Very, very few came through windows. The Capitol Police let them in. Again, Cat King, we watched it live. We watched for 5 minutes as the camera was sitting outside of the Capitol windows while people just paraded inside. So your statement is false. And that's the difference. And I don't know where you came from because I don't recognize your name. But you are in our chat spreading misinformation because we watched it live. That's the difference between what everyone else sees, what you're watching on the news or finding random videos on Twitter. We watched for 5 minutes as we watch people go through the windows to enter in the building. We watched John Sullivan's camera when he walked into the building as other people paraded in behind him through the broken window. You know what I mean? Yes, and we also watch cops move barricades to let the people get closer. It doesn't make a whole hell of a lot of sense. There's a lot of things about that day that don't make a lot of sense. If we were actually trying to get to the bottom of those instead of disproving other people's, disproving the left's narrative, I would be more apt to do it. But I don't have a lot of faith in what's being transpired or what's being transmitted by Tucker Carlson's show because, again, I believe he's just going to spread a right-leaning conspiracy about what happened on January 6th, and therefore we're never going to actually know what really happened. We already know the left-leaning thing of it. We don't know the right. Andrew's comment, because he can't think rationally, he just called me a moron. Thanks, Andrew. On Facebook. Just says I'm a moron because because of my opinion doesn't amount to his opinion. So I'm a moron because that's what kids do nowadays. Even though you're probably like 40 or 50 years old. That's what children do, right? They can't come up with anything concise, so they just name call. Very good, Andrew. Really like that. We saw Ashley Babbitt. Yeah. It's crazy, man. It truly is. And, I didn't mean to talk about January 6th for 43 minutes. I certainly did not. Considering I'm tired of talking about January 6th in the first part. But that's the truth. As everyone may or may not know, this episode is sponsored by Switch to America. You guys should all go over to switchtoamerica.com. In fact, here, look, you can scan this little code. Bam, right up there. You can scan that with your phone and you'll go directly to their website. And what you can do is you go on their website, you fill out the quick little form, you choose my name, Steve Oatley, as the person who referred you, and they'll contact you. They'll either email you or potentially give a phone call. And they'll run you through this survey where you take, say, Tic Tacs, right? Or not Tic Tacs, but cleaning supplies that you currently have in your house, vitamins, things like that, toothbrushes. And they'll run you through a list of everything that you use in your house and how you could switch to American-owned products and American small businesses. It's pretty awesome. So go to switchtoamerica.com and they'll fill it all out and they'll talk to you. And it's a pretty awesome program. And I'm very glad that they're working with us. So, and my wife is texting me because she's apparently on her lunch break already. Also, today, too, we're doing something big. We're doing a huge 20% off sale in the store. And that's off everything. That's off coffee, hoodies, T-shirts, the coffee bags, the patriotic bags, or the patriotic ammo can bundles. It's literally everything site-wide. All you got to do is go to puretruthcoffee.com, use code 20OFF. So that's 20OFF. Or what you can do is scan the code that you see right there. If you scan that code or do the link that's in your chat, that automatically has the discount. So you just add everything to your cart. And when you go to checkout, you'll see the code is already there. But we're doing that discount. And then that discount is good for it's good till tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. So anything you order, whether you order a bag of coffee, whether you order the coffee bug out bag bundle, whether you order a Patriotic SF ammo can or anything else, all you have to do is go click on that link. The discount's automatically applied. If you order coffee, if you order a Patriotic bundle, I think I have one more book. But if you order coffee, your coffee is going to ship tomorrow. I've been in here all morning packing the blueberry. Holy cow. I opened the back door to the store today, and this whole place smelled like blueberries. It is very strong smelling. So, but I packed all those orders. So everyone that's waiting or been waiting on your blueberry cobbler, I said I was going to ship it out by tomorrow. Nope, it's going today. So I'm very happy that I got it out on time. And yep, that's that. But Terrence said, Steve, he's showing because the January 6th committee cut the tape showing only lies, and people need to know he shows what the committee showed and cut it the whole clip. Yeah, we know this. We already know. Do you think people that don't know what happened on January 6th are watching Tucker Carlson? Do you think people that believe the January 6th committee meeting are watching Tucker Carlson every day? They are not. They are not watching him. They are not going to take these clips and suddenly believe what we've all been saying for 2 years. It's not going to happen. That's why I don't know why they only release the videos to Tucker Carlson. Why didn't they release it to everybody? Makes no freaking sense one bit. You know, it doesn't make any sense one bit. But whatever. I mean, there's nothing that I can do or say that's going to, impact how other people believe about it, unfortunately. I wish there was, but it is what it is, man. It's and maybe more information comes out. Maybe they will release something that hasn't been talked about on the January 6th hearings or promoted by left-wing media. I just don't believe it. I believe that they're not going to put anything else out that's new to all of us. They could put out stuff. It's like the Twitter files. Remember when the Twitter files all came out and I was like, this sucks? Because they put out information that we already knew. It doesn't matter that the left said it didn't happen. We knew it happened, right? And the left is sometimes they're so stubborn, just like the right. When the left says something and the right disagrees with it, the right will just automatically say it's false without actually checking. The left does the same thing. Someone said, you just got to say people won't watch the Tucker Carlson no matter what if they want to see the footage. They will if they want to see the footage. No, not from Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson, I mean, listen, look at how the left has portrayed Tucker Carlson for the past year. I mean, come on, dude. Come on. But that 20% off coupon, 20% off, scan that code in the chat. That coupon is good on everything. That's not just good for, oh, why isn't the other thing showing up? Oh, do I have to do it every day? Oh, that sucks. I'm not doing that. But that's good off everything. So that's good on the 20% off coffee, t-shirts, hoodies, anything. All you got to do is 20 off, or just use the code that should have been shared out when I just put that up. Or it's just 20OFF is the code. And that's good. You can use it for the Patriotic as F ammo can bundles. You can use it for everything. So please do. A couple other stories I wanted to talk about before the day is completely over for me, because I have a dentist appointment at 1:30, which is going to put me out for the rest of the day, because I'm not going to come in and be all miserable because of dental work, and I am miserable with dental work. Is this the 4 citizens that were kidnapped in Mexico? I know a lot of you guys have been commenting on it in social media, and hopefully it doesn't. You know, I gave a prediction earlier that this was going to disappear from the media very quickly, and hopefully it doesn't. Hopefully the media keeps commenting on it, but I firmly believe this is going to disappear from the media very quickly, and I believe you guys can also understand why. The 4 U.S. citizens that were shot and abducted in Mexico were identified by family members as a group of friends from South Carolina. Latavia Tay McGee, Shaneed Woodard, Zindell Brown, and Eric James Williams, who remain missing, have traveled to Mexico for a cosmetic medical procedure when they were abducted on Friday, according to relatives who spoke to ABC News and the Associated Press. It's like a bad dream you wish you could wake up from, said Brown's sister, Zalejandra Brown. To see a member of your family thrown in the back of a truck and dragged is just unbelievable. She said her brother had 2 friends who accompanied a third pal to get a tummy tuck surgery. McGee's mother, Barbara Burgess, 54, told ABC News that she was concerned about the daughter's trip to get cosmetic work in Mexico, and said she cautioned her not to go. But her daughter said, "Ma, I'll be okay," before leaving for the journey on Wednesday, she recalled. McGee, 35, was scheduled to have the surgery on Friday. She called her mother to say she was 15 minutes away from the doctor's office. That was the last time she heard from her daughter. Her phone just started going to voicemail. The group had crossed over the southern border from Texas into the notoriously dangerous city of Matamoros, I don't know how you say it, in something, when their white van came under fire and they were grabbed by gunmen. A shocking video of the purported abduction, which obviously I'm not showing, shows men in bulletproof vests pushing a woman into a flatbed of a white pickup truck before carrying a man and throwing him into it as well. April has an update for this. She just sent me. This is according to Fox News. 2 of the 4 Americans that were kidnapped in Mexico are dead. 2 are alive. So this comes from the governor of Tamaulipas, said one of the surviving Americans was wounded and the other was not, while 2 of the 4 U.S. citizens who traveled to Mexico were found dead. The FBI is still working to return the missing Americans who were abducted near the who were abducted in Mexico. So do they have the bodies, or they don't have them yet? So I guess the people that were shot and killed, because when you watch the body camera footage, the woman is escorted to the vehicle. She is placed in the back of the vehicle, and then it appears 2 men at least that were either deceased or unconscious were also carried and loaded into the back of the pickup truck. So, but this doesn't say if they've been released. Yeah, this doesn't say if anyone's been released yet. And I hopefully they do continue to talk about it. I think it'll fade off from the news pretty quickly. You know, Matamoros, someone said, yeah. But that's it. this is going to be a quick show today because, like I said, I got to go to the post office and drop that stuff off. What I would like to remind all of you guys is we're running this huge sale, and I'm doing it for specific reasons. Site-wide, 20% off hoodies, T-shirts, mugs, coffee, the bundles. You can get 20% off. An ammo can bundle, you can get 20% off. The coffee bag bundle, 20% off across the board today because I'm trying to make as much money as we can to make a big purchase. So 20% off, use that code. It's also in the description of this video if you want. Coffee will ship immediately because I have it already. Like, for example, if you order coffee within the next, I don't know, hour, your coffee will ship today because I'm going to go to the post office at 12 and drop it off. So if you order coffee now, everybody should be going over to Pure Truth Coffee right now. Order coffee. Use that promo code right there. Did it post it again? Hopefully it did. April just put it in there. But if you use that promo code, you get 20% off, and it allows you to enjoy some of the best coffee you've ever had, guaranteed. If it's not the best coffee, send it back and we'll give you your money back because it is the best coffee you've ever had. Okay? This video, I'm trying something new today. This video is going to play again at 8 o'clock tonight across all of social media. Okay? It won't be live because it's going to be the same video, but it's going to play again at 8 p.m. Eastern time. So that way the night crew can watch the same show. All right. I appreciate all you guys for watching, and I will see all of you tomorrow after I have this awful dental work today. All right. Let me figure out if I can press this button.